welcome to Left Night with Kendra Dawsey. And now, here's your host, Kendra Dawsey.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Zach. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm having a great day. How about yourself?
I'm also having a pretty good day. Things are going well. You know, I had an egg sandwich. Everything's going great.
That's great. That's great. Just coffee for me.
That's fine. That's valid. Coffee is good.
It is. It's cold now, but it's good. What's been on your mind this week, Kendra?
Well, this week we're going a little bit international with what's been on my mind. So, since taking office in January, President Joe Biden has done a few rollbacks on things, including student loans forgiveness and those 2,000 buckaroos. But one thing he did that was not entirely bad and was earnestly surprising to me, someone who is so cynical I figured the dog would die in I Am Legend once I started watching it, was to end U.S. support for the war in Yemen. Now, the U.S. has so many military operations around the world, so you may have a few questions about this particular conflict. Like, where is Yemen? It's here. How long has it been going on? Since 2014. And who is involved? The current conflict in Yemen started with fighting between the Yemeni government and Houthi rebels, but then Saudi Arabia, backed by the US, began airstrikes against the Houthi rebels. Now, right now, it's not quite black and white because there are now many groups involved in this multi-sided conflict. But regardless, there is now a large humanitarian crisis with an estimated 80% of the Yemeni population requiring humanitarian aid. Because there is nothing that America likes more than a proxy war and a military quagmire causing untold devastation. Biden officially ending support for the Saudi coalition in the Yemeni conflict is notable and can even be said to be a step in the right direction, which is a rare thing to say on Left Night. However, we're still best buds with Saudi Arabia. We still have very close diplomatic ties to them. If this were high school, it would be like the US not giving Saudi Arabia answers on the math quiz anymore, but still gossiping with them about all the anime geeks after school. Saudi Arabia is an ultra-conservative absolute monarchy that's known for human rights abuses, and the United States is a democratic republic known for human rights abuses. So obviously we've got a lot in common. Recently, Saudi dissident and journalist Jamal Khashoggi was killed inside a foreign Saudi consulate in Istanbul, Turkey. And Saudi Arabia imprisoned activist Lujan al-Hathlul for driving as a woman. In addition, Saudi wields an inordinate amount of power in the Middle East region. They may have potentially funded ISIS and Al-Qaeda, which the US is allegedly against. And they're also shipping out their brand of conservative Islam, Salafism, to many nations in the world. So why is the US so interested in Saudi Arabia? One, they're rich, and two, we need an ally in the Middle East that is not Israel. That's basically it. What you could do to help this is you pressure your representatives to do something and take a stand against US imperialism abroad, and hopefully they'll listen, but until the US and Saudi relations significantly change in this world, imperialism will continue to shape the Middle East and the entire world. And now, a word from our sponsors.
Hey everyone, it's God again. I'm wearing a hat because the heat is off in heaven. We weren't hooked up to any local heating source. Anyway, so recently Rush Limbaugh dies, and I've been hearing a lot of y'all's prayers about trying to get rid of Henry Kissinger, just praying that Henry Kissinger could also leave Earth. And I just want to say to everyone, I feel you. I feel you, but that nigga is literally the devil, all right? Henry Kissinger fell from heaven, went to Earth, and now he is y'all's problem. So I'm going to do my best. You know, Rush Limbaugh's gone. I can maybe focus on, Dick Cheney, but Henry Kissinger is all y'all, and I'm sorry. All right, have a nice day.
Wow, I guess we have to deal with Satan ourselves.
Rough stuff. But pour one out for Rush. We lost Rush. He's down.
We are so sad to lose Rush. That is obviously sarcasm.
Yeah. As a couple of blowhards who kind of make stuff up as we go along, we had a certain solidarity with Rush. Even though we didn't agree with him.
I mean, personally, when I heard Rush Limbaugh died, my brain immediately went to that crab rave video with the like crowd just like do 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 do, which I know everyone's like, oh man, that's so mean. How could you wish this on someone? But like this guy, like we make stuff up as we go along, but we at least like check like Wikipedia, right? Like this guy was like, actually climate change is fake. COVID is a hoax. Gay people don't deserve rights. And using birth control turns women horny or makes women horny or something. Like he just like said random shit. You know, the Republican Party.
I believe what he said about birth control is that if you need the government to pay for your birth control, you're a slut because that means you're having too much sex to cover your own birth control.
Which is not how birth control works.
Right.
But
He's fundamentally unaware of how it's not like you have to take a certain amount based on how much sex you're having.
Listen, there was 1 month I had sex over 9,000 times and I had to take 9,000 pills of birth control.
Oh my gosh. That's a lot.
No, but like, yeah, it's and like, yeah, he just said a lot of shit. Like some of it was very ridiculous. And like, you know, if you like know a woman or know how things work, it's obviously fake, but he was doing it just to, you know, get the Republican Party in power. And now the world is more fucked. I mean, the world's been fucked up, but it's more fucked up because of him. So I wish him a very die. So
the sort of the opposite of like the Boy Scout motto, he left the world worse than he found it. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. Do you have a favorite Rush Limbaugh memory? Because I have one.
I don't know if I have a favorite. I often do not like making fun of people who are suffering from addiction. Because obviously it's bad. It's not a great thing. And the way that, you know, a lot of people got hooked on painkillers in this country was they had a serious surgery. And they later became addicted. But I do not feel bad for making fun of Rush Limbaugh for it. And I know that may be hypocritical, but again, I hope that man suffers. So that when he was, and he probably said some shit about people who have addictions on his show. He was probably like, oh, like people who use crack are automatically bad people. So like, I like that may not be true, but I feel like we could search for all his records and find it. So yeah, when he had to with shame admit that he had also could, you know, be a victim of addiction despite being rich and old and white, that was a little nice for me.
I say yes. My favorite Rush Limbaugh memory was when he spent the first 10 minutes of his show one time going on a tirade against Obama because he was funding a military effort against the Lord's Resistance Army, and he believed that this was proof that Obama hated God and hated Christianity and was a Muslim because he was putting troops on the ground to fight against the Lord's Resistance Army, which is a Christian group. Which, if you do not know, that was the group that was led by Joseph Kony.
Yes.
And he didn't address it again until like the very end of the show. He's like, I'm seeing some things that the Lord's Resistance Army are being accused of doing some bad things, and we're going to have to do some research into that. And then never once addressed it ever again. But I appreciate that level of obliviousness that you go, oh, Lord's Resistance. Oh, well, these are the good guys, clearly.
They must not have any child soldiers. They must be working entirely for Christ. Like, how could we be against the Lord's Resistance Army? Yeah, he's just a ridiculous man. And yeah, he's a bad person. And you know, also, like, I feel like he probably said some stuff against like poor people having access to healthcare, and then he got like a strong form of cancer. Like, basically, like bad things happening to bad people. I don't feel bad about.
Nope, not a tear shed.
Not a tear shed.
Let's see what else happened this week. would you believe that they did not actually, or the Senate did not vote to convict Trump of, I guess, not retroactively removing him from office? I don't even know what they were saying this was going to do to him. But could you believe it? Could you believe with your own eyes?
I could. I very much could. Yeah, that was frustrating, but not surprising. It seemed like Mitch McConnell explicitly said, like, yeah, he's culpable, but I'm not going to vote to impeach him. And then Trump bitched him out anyway. And I think, Trump released something on, I don't know through what channels, but I read a Politico headline, which, like, Politico, best gossip mag of this political, of like politics, right? Like, that's like, Politico is like the equivalent of that Lady Bridgerton letter, or like whatever the fuck. I don't know. I watched like 3 episodes of that show. Politico was like, oh, at first, like, Trump wanted to make fun of Mitch McConnell having more than one chin, but then his advisors recommended that he take out that part of the letter where he was like, Mitch McConnell's like a fucking snake, like, is a fugly slut, like, don't hang out with her, so.
Oh man, you're saying like how you don't know how Trump releases like messages now, and I don't know the answer to that either, but in my head went to the funniest thing I could think of first, which is like flag semaphore, where he's just holding up flag to send a message.
Trump has no mouth, but he must scream.
He
lifts flags.
Yeah, just somebody in the distance is just transcribing his flag movement. That's the funniest thing I can think. Do you think this is it for? Are we going to hear? Because they're talking. Obviously, they're talking about, like, right now he has like 54%. He's like 54% of Republicans said that he's like their front running choice to vote for in 2024, and like 6% said Don Jr. So you can just sort of like put that group in with the other one. So around about 60% of Republicans said have him as their front runner. Do you think this is all we see of Trump, or do we see a return of him? What do you think the future has?
The future is probably going to be bad in terms of like Trump specifically running again. Mm-hmm. I honestly think he's like kind of too old. I don't anticipate I know he's like 4 years older or younger than Biden, I think, or like around, they're like not, around the same age, but like, I don't think he'll be like really conditioned to run in 4 years. I think there'll probably be someone with like the same ideology and ideas as Trump, but like, not as, but like better at like talking, who will rise, and like that we'll probably see that. I don't really see Don Jr. I mean, America has surprised me, but I don't know.
He's not, for everything else that we could say about Trump. Trump actually connected to people and like was like humorous in a way that like people actually, there's no real person like thinks Don Jr. is funny or interesting or cool.
Yeah,
like, he's one of the least cool people.
I know, but like you know how there's some people that just love not cool people. That's the sad part. But I don't really see Don Jr. I don't know. Like I don't know. I feel like if Don Jr. runs, we're gonna have some like Hunter Biden-esque, like dirt come out on him. Like there's gonna be a photo of him like smoking a crack pipe with a sex worker in like a bathroom in Baltimore or whatever. Which, like, you know what? Maybe the Republican Party
would actually be the coolest thing I heard about Don Jr., if I'm being honest.
Partying.
Yeah.
He looks very doofy to me. I know that has never stopped. A doofy looking white man has never stopped the Republican Party. Mm-hmm. I know they're into that shit, but like, to me, he looks very ridiculous, and I just can't imagine him. But the past like 10 years have basically been a nightmare. So who knows what will happen?
Yeah. Yeah, part of me thinks that Republicans are just baby brained, so like they just don't have object permanence. So like the last name they saw was Trump. So then when they get asked like who's your favorite Republican for 2024, that's the only name they can think of.
Maybe
So,
they thought the first Donald Trump was a junior, and they're like, "Oh yeah, Don's kid is Donald Trump the third." I don't know.
yeah, so that's my thought of probably why Trump pulled that high, and I don't think there's really that much interest in him running again. But on the other hand, Trump is very sort of like there's a sucker born every minute, and there is an insane amount of money in terms of fundraising that is available for him to try to run again in 2024. So I think if he can figure out a way to get the funds to come in and never actually have to run again, he will do that. But if push comes to shove and the only way people will pay him again is if he runs again, he will do it. But I don't know. I think Tricky Don will find some way to siphon off a bunch of money and not have to leave Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
Well, I just hopefully I won't have to think about it for at least 2 years. I'm hoping.
Right. Yeah. It's gonna be. It'll be funny to see how it all turns out. It won't be good or productive or helpful for anybody, but it will probably be funny.
Yeah, the way you said it'll be funny was just like with the weight, the exhaust of 1,000 souls have lived through. It'll be funny.
Right. Yes.
I would rather it not happen.
Right. It's almost like I feel like I wished on a monkey's paw that the world would be funnier. And the world has gotten significantly funnier in the last 10 years, but at what cost?
Yeah, at too much of a cost.
What else is going on?
Texas is bad. It's not doing well. That's one thing.
Yeah. Real shout out and solidarity to everybody in Texas who's fighting with your very dumb, not the people, but particularly the state itself and the way it decides to run its power grid. I'm not going to be one of these sort of like reactionary libs who's just like, oh, this is what you get for being in a red state or whatever. Because guess what? Blue states fuck up all the time. And
Massachusetts is going to fuck up.
Yeah, as I said I'm repeating a joke I made on Twitter, but basically, if you're like laughing at what's happening to Texas and it's not happening in your state, that's basically like thinking you're good at Russian roulette because you didn't die in this particular game of it. Like, if you sit at the table long enough, you're going to get the bullet in the head as well. You just got lucky this time that it was Texas and not you.
Yes.
And especially with how states like New York and California have handled coronavirus, it's coming around to all of us. There is no competent state in the United States, and tragedy will strike everybody. And right now, it's Texas, where they do not have power.
In like a historically cold temperatures. Yeah.
Right.
I was doing a little bit of reading, the small amount of reading that I am able to do. And apparently Texas has its own power grid, except for a few regions in the very north and El Paso. Texas has its own power grid. So obviously obviously this cold snap is not just happening in Texas, it's happening in other places, but other states have been able to keep their lights on because if one local power grid fails, they're able to get power from other places. This is not the case in Texas. So yeah, there have been lots of blackouts all over the state. Where people, I know people who have their power keeps coming on and off over days. There's people who have not had power for 36 hours. And part of that is, the government of Texas, again, different from its people, as is true everywhere. The government is different from its people, deciding not to, renovate the power grid so that it's able to handle any new things. And then part of it is I think back in the day, like in the 70s, they're like, oh, like, yeah, Texas, we don't need to follow like laws of, power grid stuff that all states have to follow so that it works. We're just going to make our own power grid. We don't need to follow those laws. And now people are
it's pure political posturing. It serves no actual, it's not good for anybody unless you're a fossil fuel magnate living in Texas, or you're some kind of like yeehaw, like fake folksy politician who wants to sell people on the idea that it's actually good for Texas to be independent. It doesn't help anybody.
Yeah. And but you probably just described everyone in Texas as like government, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, it's not good. There are already people trying to blame these rolling blackouts, which could or the, lack of power in lots of places in Texas, on the Green New Deal, which has not happened to it has, I think Texas does have a relatively high amount of wind power, but that the wind, but even that relatively high amount is maybe 20% on a good day. And that is not the cause of the rolling blackouts. I think one thing that did happen with their wind turbines is that those wind turbines weren't winterized, which is an issue with all of Texas's energy sources. And, it's not inherent in wind energy.
Yeah, something like 10% of the energy deficit is from renewable resources, and the other 90% is from good old natural gas and the existence of wind turbines in Texas is just a matter of it's convenient to them because they have a lot of open land space that it's not a policy choice. Believe me, if there's so much oil money in Texas that if it served any actual threat to the existence of fossil fuels, something would have stopped it long ago. It's just very easy for them to blame it on them and for the media, because there was somebody posted a thing that showed, I think it was BBC, had a tweet to a news story about the rolling blackouts in Texas that was hitting very okay numbers or whatever, and then they reposted the same article within the tweet headline, sort of saying something about failures of wind turbines or failures of renewable resources, and they got so much more sharing on that article after doing that. The media understands that the sensationalization of this is useful for them because then they get that sort of reactionary response that they're looking for, rather than actually talking about the actual realities of our power grid.
Yes, yeah, basically. It sucks. There's I think we could probably give, maybe in the comments, we'll throw in some names of some Venmo accounts of mutual aid groups all across Texas. A few are local in the cities, but there are also a few in rural areas. Basically, it's bad. And this is probably what's going to keep happening. It's probably going to be the first instance of this happening. Right. Let's end on something new, like some good news. Is there any, other than Rush Limbaugh no longer on this mortal plane, has anything else good happened?
We can talk about this thing that I'm not sure why I'm supposed to. They never clarify why you're supposed to be afraid of this. But North Korea allegedly hacked Pfizer to get information about the vaccine. Yeah. Which is read as a scary story or whatever. Sounds cool to me. I don't see any downside for me or the people of North Korea. So I don't see who. I don't have any Pfizer stock. I don't care. And it's not like Pfizer is selling to North Korea anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
So everybody wins.
I'm sure there's lots of things that North Korea does that I don't agree with, but this isn't one of them. Like they probably have lots of sanctions that would make it harder for them to get access to the vaccine. Why not hack them? And also the Sony hack, that there were some like interesting emails that came out of that. I forgot whether North Korea did it or whether it was just some random man online that was mad. Either way, steal some vaccine secrets. Have fun. Have at it.
Right. Yeah. No, please. And send them to me too, because I want to see. I got some weird stuff in my cabinet. Maybe I can make some vaccine for myself.
Yeah, maybe you could spread some vaccine around, because the vaccine rollout in Massachusetts isn't going so well.
It's disastrous. If we could open source the vaccine, I don't see. I do see a downside of weirdos on the internet telling me they have the vaccine they can put in me. But if I want to learn what's in the vaccine and get some more information and get it out there, and maybe somebody with the correct infrastructure can start printing it up for free, I see no downside to this.
We're gonna just print lots of copies of the vaccine.
Yeah. Good on you, North Korea.
All right, everyone. Now we'll pause for a quick word from our commercial sponsors.
Train your brain with just 5 minutes a day. Hi, folks. Zach here. And if you're like me, you've probably heard quite a few ads in podcasts and games and such for a brain training game. Just 5 minutes a day to improve your brain. But let's think about that logically for a second. Do you think the thing that your shriveled up poor little brain wants is for you to download another fucking app? Of course not. So I'm here with a real brain training exercise called logging off. Log out of some stuff. Delete some apps. Get off Facebook. Get off Twitter. Get off Instagram. For a day, for a week, for a month, for however long you can go, not letting your brain get poked and prodded with stimuli all hours of the day so that it just starts falling apart like a bloomin' onion. Do yourself a favor and train your brain by logging off. What, you think your brain wants you to work on your spatial reasoning? Do a few more exercises? No, it wants you to read a fucking book. Get some knowledge up there. Do something better for your brain. I can attest to the powers of logging off. I logged off just yesterday, and in a mere few hours, my brain has restored to a point at which I can solve most of the world's problems. Now, the problem I can't solve is how to tell everybody about the solutions, because I know as soon as the moment I log back on again to tell people, it will all disappear from my brain and vanish by the sight of the return to social media stimuli. So log off today, save your brain some time, do anything else with your time. It will do wonders for your brain, way better than any sort of brain games. Of course, that's not what your brain wants. Your brain wants some damn peace and quiet and to actually focus on one task for once in the last decade. Just log off. Your brain will thank you.
All right. Well, we're closing out on the show here. I just want to have some few final thoughts before we end. We're going to keep it nice and simple this week. I think Joe Biden should grow a mustache. I don't have any ideological reasoning. I don't see any strategic reason for him to do it. I don't know what it's going to help. It will not solve any of the world's problems, but he doesn't seem that interested in solving the problems we have already. He wants to be purely an aesthetic president and make everybody feel like everything is back to normal. He wants to be old Grandpa Joe. Well, you know what, Grandpa Joe? Grow a mustache. I think it would be great. I think it would be fun. We haven't had a president with facial hair since William Howard Taft. That is over 100 years ago. So grow a mustache. I want you to have a mustache. We're entering a new age where we're going to have any number of people who are running for president going forward. Hopefully we'll have a woman president at some point. Maybe we'll have no presidents. That would be my choice. But we may never have another chance to have a president with a mustache. So do us a favor, and if you're not going to help us with anything else, just grow a mustache, Joe.
Wow, thank you so much, Zach, for that brave, controversial stance. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Please stick around for Quarantine Action Wrestling, and we'll see you next week.